now we'll go on to new business, and I will. Well, I don't have much to introduce for Lane. Lane's been. How long you been the head of the association now?
1 year.
Is it
Not
1
even
year?
a year. February will be. Almost a year.
Almost a year. I thought it was a lot longer than that. I know you've been taking care of the fur table for a long time.
When I'm dealing with you, you know, it feels extra long.
Extra long. Well, I know he's Lane's come here now for at least the last 2-3 years talking about the fur table.
Oh, I think more than that.
Oh, a lot longer than that. Okay. Well, since I've been, what's that? Not. So.
Are you mumbling, Dave?
Yeah.
Was that the shot for interrupting and introducing myself?
So Lane is going to talk to us about the fur tables coming up on the weekend of the 16th, 17th, and I think we've spoken about this a number of times in the past. What an important economic generator the fur table is for the city of Thompson. We'll talk a bit about the numbers, but I can say one thing that not only, of course, with all the buyers that come in to buy the fur, but of course most of the individuals selling the fur, the cash they earn from this, quite often they put it back into Thompson in regards to buying stuff at our, retailers, our businesses. So we are always very happy to have the fur table here in Thompson. We like to show as much support as we can for it. So Lane will talk to us about the upcoming one. And Lane, did you want to go up front there or right here? Up to you.
I think I'll stay here.
Just here, right here. Okay.
I just got a verbal threat there.
Oh.
Stay there. No, we talked about it earlier. He was okay with me being here.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sure just about everybody knows who I am. They've seen my face. I've bugged you for donations if you own a business or somebody you know real well. I've been involved with the fur table for about 30 years. I've been looking after it in Thompson here for over 20 years now. And I'll just go into a little bit of history. The fur table was started, it's been 35 or 36 years now, and it was set up by Northern Affairs, I believe in 1968, if I'm not mistaken. And it actually moved around Lynn Lake, Leaf Rapids, Thompson, the Paw. And it settled in Thompson many years ago. And it was a way for the trappers in the north to get a fair and competitive bid on the fur that they're harvesting, which, as everybody is aware, that was the bulk of their employment at that time. And even today it's very important to the families for the income that it generates. When I first got involved, there was a little bit of bad feelings between the trappers, the association, and the city of Thompson, because the Trappers Association, which I'm involved with, was putting this on at their expense. They were getting no support from Thompson whatsoever. And the Paw years ago had offered, if you bring the fur table to Thompson or to the Paw, we'll pay all your expenses. So that was thrown around for a few years. The departments, I worked for conservation at the time here in town, and they had asked me if I would get involved, see if there's something I could do to ease the tensions a bit. So I got involved, and I talked to a lot of the businesses. I pounded the doors and bent a lot of ears for a long time, and finally we got a lot of businesses and support from the Chamber of Commerce, the City of Thompson, and it's turned around where in the last probably 8-9 years, I haven't even heard mention of wanting to move to another place. The association, and I'll mention now, as I've been involved with the association for lots of years, but now I'm the president of the Manitoba Trappers Association, and my loyalties are with Thompson. I've been here for 25 years, 26 years. My family went to school here. They were here, my kids were both here. One still has a house here, is working in Snow Lake, so we have roots here. I'm originally from Bowden, so I have roots in the north, and to me it's really important that the fur tables stay here. I have also trapped myself since I was very young, and it's always been a hobby with myself because I was employed and I used holidays or weekends to trap. I'm still involved now. I've been retired from conservation from almost 4 years now, so I've been trapping full time, as you say. And I picked the worst 4 years in history because the fur 5 years ago was at the top prices, and 4 years ago it dropped to some of the lowest prices on record. Right now the market is depressed, and it's not because of anti-fur or anything. It's because of the countries that buy Canadian fur. Their economies are strained right now. One of the big buyers is Russia. With the embargoes and that, they're having a bit of a tough time. I'm sure everybody reads the news, knows that another major buyer is South Korea. Their government is a little bit dysfunctional right now. They've got some issues with their, I think it's the president there. And of course China is another big buyer. And I'll explain. 5 years ago, when the prices were at an all-time high, most of the buyers were coming from China. That year I was watching the auction on internet, and the room, the huge room, was all Oriental buyers, and they paid premium prices. Some of the marten, which is sort of this meat and potatoes of the north, were selling for, well, some of the high ones went over $300 for a hide. The norm, $40 to $50. So even for myself, the average was 260 or 280 for a hide that year. The trappers did really well. The buyers have to ship their fur, so they ship by containers to China. They find out that there's a 30% luxury tax now in place in China. So they just paid premium prices, and now they got to pay another 30% on record prices. So they did the pencil and eraser game and downgraded their prices that they paid and the quality or the numbers, and the Chinese government found out, arrested a bunch of the buyers, and seized over $1 billion worth of fur. The next year the auction was filled. There was only 2 Oriental buyers in there. A lot of them were still in jail the next year. So apparently you don't want to try to beat the Chinese government. But it right now it's still very depressed in the prices. But the fur tables is still going ahead. We're anticipating we're going to have a lot fewer numbers. But if you look around, or remember what the weather was like as of yesterday, nothing is freezing. I have traps out. I can get about 10 kilometers on my snow machine now. I was walking up till we had had some decent snow on some of the roads, but I can't cross anything that had or holds water. The other day I was out, and on the trail I'm on there was rabbits, of course, scooting across, and when I come back there's water in the tracks where they crossed in the snow. The swamps with this snow, what ice there was, the weight of the snow is pushing down it and it's melting underneath. So we're anticipating tonight is the start of the cold weather, so that may help. But a lot of our fur comes from the north, Brochet, Lac Brochet, Tuduli Lake, Shamattawa, and they have ideal conditions in the Brochet, Tuduli, Lac Brochet area. They got a good freeze. They just got some snow now, but on Facebook there's a side page, it's called Hunt and Trap page, and I'm on that, and I see a lot of the catches, the guys in the north, and it's good. So we're still anticipating there's going to be fur coming in. The prices are not going to be any great number unless there's, you can't second guess the market. So maybe somebody's going to come in and say, well, we're going to get back into this, prices are low, and maybe the price will come up with a bit of competition. But we're not anticipating high prices. That's what we express to the trappers. But because the trappers depend on this as income for their families, they will still be out trapping. They will be here for the fur table. A lot of the families use the Thompson fur tables as their annual holidays. They bring their kids in, they hit the swimming pools, their families shop for Christmas. Just a word of caution, if you need groceries in the next week, make sure you get it before the 15th of December. Or you will be standing in lines, you may be seeing empty counters in Walmart, Safeway, Giant Tiger. So get your supplies before then. They say as the trappers come in, they bring their families. They don't just come in or have money from the fur in their pockets. A lot of the people are coming in from isolated communities, and they have, you know, other source income money with them, or social assistance money with them, and they are going to buy their Christmas supplies and their winter trapping supplies. I'm sure everybody has dealt with First Nations people in the past. They are very loyal people. They are very appreciative of what Thompson is doing for them, and it doesn't matter what time of year. If they need something and they have the opportunity, they will come back into Thompson and buy their supplies. They'll buy their boats in Thompson, they buy their snow machines in Thompson, they do a lot of their repairs in Thompson. So these are the same buyers that, these buyers are the same guys that come in for the fur table. So it's not just about the fur and the fur tables, it is about extending the hospitality of the North, showing that Thompson's very appreciative of the support that they provide, and we want this to keep going, and we're telling them welcome. And I think in the last number of years it has turned around. We have the Chamber, we have the City of Thompson, a lot of the businesses, we have the MP's office, I believe Nikki Ashton's office, we have our new MLA, Mr. Bindle is coming, I believe, to the fur table to give greetings. I've asked that Sheila Wilson come, because their office is actually in Winnipeg, but I went and pleaded with them because the grassroots people of the First Nations, the trappers, they want to see their own leaders there also. But they can't, the trappers that have been coming for years, and I know all these guys, they can't believe how things have turned around and how welcome they are in town. It's comments that I get all the time, and I'm sure the business people in Thompson see the increase in traffic, especially the businesses that support the fur table. Like the Trappers Association run a small raffle to offset the costs of the fur table. We've got donations coming in, and we've gone the legal route and actually got a lottery license this year. And I'll just maybe go into a little bit of background with the association. We had a major change. Our clerk of 30 years decided to retire this fall. Our office for lots of years was in the southeast corner in Lac du Bonnet, which is so convenient for all the trappers, especially in the north. When Cherry White decided to retire, we met down there and we decided that really there wasn't anybody here interested in taking over, because Lac du Bonnet is a big part of it is a hydro community, and a lot of people are employed by hydro. They don't want to work for what we pay, and we wanted to get it closer to a central part of the province, so we moved our office to Ericsdale, Manitoba, just south of Ashern. The office is a small building that we've rented. We're going to try it for a year and see how it works out. It's one block off of number 6, so we're still going to carry the trap and trapping supplies for the trappers. So when they're into Winnipeg to pick up regular supplies or meetings or doctor's appointments, they can pop a block off of number 6 and pick up supplies instead of driving 2 or 2.5 hours to Lac du Bonnet, back to Winnipeg, finding some place to store supplies, because if they leave it in the back of the truck in Winnipeg, it probably won't be there in the morning. So we're trying to facilitate the trappers by providing that as a better service. We do have a replacement for Cherry. Her name is Mary Riddle. She's a lady that had a lot of office experience in, I believe, the Water Conservation District in the Interlake. She will be up for the fur table. So if anybody's there, you know, stop by and introduce yourself. She's a very pleasant lady. She's very quick to catch on, so we're hoping we're going to move ahead. We are at the fur table trying to expand on what we used to do. we used to have a tremendous amount of crafters in the north, and they would be at the fur table. We used to have it in the Elks Hall, which is now the Métis Federation, I believe. The basement was full of crafters. If you went down there, you had to walk sideways through those tables. It's changed because a lot of the people who do that kind of thing will not sit, or they can't afford to sit on their product for a year making stuff and having a good supply for the fur table. So as they make things, they sell it or they take orders, so they have some income coming in. So we're gonna have a few. We did have a few commercial outfits that come up with fur products or leather goods. We're still gonna have that, but I've got several of our directors and instructors coming up through the province, and we're going to do trapping or skinning or pelt preparation demonstrations like we used to for the kids. We're going to specialize in some of the products or the areas where the trappers are having some issues, finishing off what the market calls for the ears and the paws on animals like wolves and wolverine. So we have a fellow there, but we've extended the invitation to Mystery Lake School Division. And right now we have booked about 200, give or take, kids coming in classes, and we're going to facilitate them to explain about the fur table and give them skinning demonstrations and answer questions for them. So it's a start to get back into what we used to do. And again, I guess I can mention it. Safeway has extended the offer that they are going to supply prizes. We will be having a tremendous amount of kids contests, trap setting, wolf calling. That's something that Volker got going, I think 3 or 4 years ago, and we're going to carry that through. Moose calling. We want to get the kids back involved in the industry, and the great way to do it is a little bit of a contest against their friends and relatives, and we do have prizes for the winners. The first year we did it, Safeway donated us, I think, 4 turkeys that were about 25, 30-pound turkeys. The kids that were winning it couldn't even carry them home or carry them back, so I've asked them if they would drop the sizes a bit. So they special order in half a dozen smaller turkeys for prizes. We don't do the cash prizes. The kids appreciate if they win anything. So we have traps there that we'll pass out. We do have quite a bit. City gave us boxes and boxes of handouts. So if anybody is running a business and has some extra handouts there, by all means, we'll graciously accept those. And if you have anything major, we'll put that on a raffle, our legal raffle table, or say licensed raffle table, and that will go. We have ticket sales are only the 2 days. It's very popular. We have usually a lot of prizes, and we just keep drawing till all the prizes are gone. The tickets are $2 a piece, and the draw is right before the fur table closes on Saturday. So everybody's usually in town. They come back for it. It's usually a lot of fun. So we're progressing with trying to get back to what we had, and emphasizing on educational part for the kids, which personally I think is very important to keep the kids involved. And there still seems to be a family tradition by coming to the fur table, meeting family and friends from way back. This is probably the only time they see each other each year. And we have some of the people coming, well, since I started coming 30 years ago. It's the same guys, same faces. They've added a little bit of gray hair, but it's the same faces. So it's progressing, and we're hoping it will continue in Thompson. So as long as I'm involved, it will stay in Thompson, and we'll continue on. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes.
Yeah, the Hutterite lady's going to be there this year?
Pocket Lake, I think they call Pocket Lake.
Yeah, the ones where they knit those wonderful socks, those nice winter socks.
I don't know.
They were there the other year, and then boy, that was
Last year?
A couple of years ago.
Okay.
And they make the filleting cases that are covered with pickerel skin.
I saw that. I don't think that was a Hutterite.
That might not have been a Hutterite thing, but the socks was.
Well, I think it may have come from a Hutterite colony.
The socks, the ladies were there.
Well, usually the colony people can't leave the colony. I've actually.
Well, we were there that year. They were all dressed in their little outerite.
Oh, sorry.
There's some people in town that are like
Okay,
that.
but
Oh,
Yeah.
this year, because of the low prices, I had a bunch of items that I had caught last year. I tanned a lot. I took them down. I did find a Hutterite lady who does a lot of commercial sewing for market out west, and I had her sew, you know, those bomber style hats, but out of lynx and otter. So instead of using rabbit like everybody uses, I was trying to promote the northern fur. She didn't know what I was talking about, so I tanned it and I took it down. So I sat down with her and she sent me some samples a couple weeks ago. So they turned out really nice. So if they're a hit, I'm going to promote some of the trappers to get some of their products or their hides tanned, get things made and sell the end product. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Before Lane, could you repeat the hours for Friday and Saturday, just so everyone knows, for the for the table?
Depends on the temperature.
Okay.
When the doors open, if it's cold, the door will be open as in other cold years at 5 in the morning. It prevents the snow snake repellent from being pulled out from under the truck seats and repelling those snow snakes in line and 30 below. But it'll be open early, and it'll run until the buyers are tired in the afternoon, usually around 5 or 6 o'clock. And then we shoot for 8 o'clock the second day. But again, it may not go as long on Saturday, but we will still have the guys there to do demonstrations on Saturday. And if people are there with the kids, we'll be doing more kids contests and passing out prizes on Saturday, so we'll continue that. But Friday will be the big day with a lot of the trappers. We're trying to get through as quick as they can. Excuse me. The school kids will be there, and we have a few retailers that are setting up there, so they'll be hoping to sell products there also.
So someone had a
Dave, yes.
What time are the game contests going to be at?
You know,
Whenever.
you've been in the north almost as long as I have, so
I can work with an ish time.
you know, it's when there's a bunch of kids there, and we see there's kids sitting around, then we'll try to announce and stir them up and get them up. Almost have to pick them up and carry them up to get them going. Once they do, then it goes, but we don't have a set time for the prizes. Yes.
Where's it going to be held?
It's at St. Joe's. Yes, Dave.
How is the European market for the fur? Like, I know they were great buyers before.
They were. Actually, they were the ones that forced Canada's hand on going to humane traps in the early 80s. But it's not as strong as it used to be. They have a tremendous amount of farm animals in Norway, Sweden, fox, mink. You know, we don't know if it's because of that the prices are somewhat lower. When I was trapping as a young person, I used to follow stuff, and you see that ranch mink, there'd be 100,000, 200,000. Wow, that's a lot of animals. And offering different colors and all this stuff. Nowadays, it's 8 and 9 and 12 million fox and ranch animals that are at these sales. And the wild fur is a very small part of the auctions. Fur Harvester, which is, there's only 2 fur auction houses left in North America. It's Fur Harvester based out of Ontario, and North American Fur Auction, which they have a big warehouse and office in Winnipeg, but their main office is out of Toronto. Fur Harvester actually loads up the wild fur. They ship it to, I believe, Norway, and they tie in with some of the bigger outfits that ranch. You know, they figure that's going to draw a lot of the buyers from Europe, and the last 2 years it hasn't gone over well. So the fur auction houses are constantly trying to promote, and North American actually has fashion designers who are coming up with different ideas for fur products, and that's what I'm saying is it's not the anti-fur people that are depressing it, because a lot of the movie stars are now wearing these fancy garments. It doesn't even look like fur anymore. It looks like really unique clothing but it is made of, some of it's sheared beaver and strips sewn in, like it's pretty amazing stuff they did an auction for us, or a show for us at our annual meeting last year at Swan River. It was amazing stuff. Yes, sir.
Is there price difference between ranched fur and wild fur?
Yes, yes.
Well, what is the difference?
You know, there's so many different products. If I said mink, ranch mink, there's something like 30 or 40 different shades and colors of ranch mink, different size groupings, different qualities. You know, so there's not a set price, but ranch mink is actually a little bit lower price than wild mink. But in general, if somebody is doing mass production of something and they want fur, they can get the quantity that they want, the color, the shade. If you want sort of a steel gray, but with a tinge of something else, they will provide that for you. So it all depends on the market, but Canadian wild fur is still some of the highest quality fur in the world. And people will tell you that, but because of that, the price reflects it. A wild marten, or what they refer to as Canadian sable, you could be looking at $80,000, $90,000 for a jacket. You know, even in Thompson, I know a lot of people do quite well. I don't think a lot of people want to spend $80,000, $90,000 on a jacket. You know, some people, some places, they will pay that, but unfortunately, it's not in Canada. Any other questions? Or? Yes.
I mean, we've obviously had kind of two problems, big problems with like the fur markets in the last few years. One of them being the market itself, the demand, which is declining in Asia. We've had some weather problems, obviously, as well, as you said, and access to the actual fur. I mean, a lot of our climate problems recently have been from a few really bad El Nino cycles, and right now, if our access to fur increases, is that enough to kind of, how does that look as opposed to actually looking at like a market preparation?
It's still going to depend on the economy. Because, you know, right, the last several years, China has the largest number of people that have the highest disposable income. Like they have their, I guess it's well-off people, or their average. It's actually a lot higher than here, and they have a lot of disposable income. A lot of the high-end products end up in China, you know, and a lot of it in the Middle East. You know, even though the weather doesn't provide for it there, apparently having $50,000 or $60,000 Canadian sable or jacket means something in Southeast Asia or the Middle East, because I'm sure there's not many days in the year that they would need it. But there's so many variables. I know the fur auction houses are promoting that the trappers still get out there, but the auction houses depend on that for their commissions to stay viable. If they don't have the product, they're not going to stay open. You know, so
even if we have access to products, you're still looking at a strong shortage of demand.
well, the demand's going to have to increase, but it's still going to happen. Like the rumblings on the computer with the trappers, you know, just like that Thompson talk. There's always somebody that puts on these questions. What would you do if, or what would you do if something happened? You know, the trappers would do that. Somebody from Norway House put on the other day, what would you do if the government said no more trapping? Well, it's kind of interesting, the comments, because I saw about 5 or 6 resource officers that I recognized the names right away jumped on it, but the bulk of the comments were, it doesn't matter, we're still going to trap. You know, it's not about the dollars, it's not about anything other than it's part of tradition, it's part of the Canadian heritage. You know, that's how Canada was founded. It's still very important to Canada and to the First Nations people. They're the people that actually have kept this industry going, because we almost lost it in the early 80s. and it was through the agreement to go to humane traps, but also the Europeans recognizing the requirement of trapping and hunting to the First Nations people in northern Canada. And that is the only reason we still have a market today. You know, so a lot of it depends on First Nations and the importance of it. You know, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, come down to the fur table and I'll introduce you to some people who feel comfortable talking, and some of these older fellows, they'll bend your ear and they will tell you how important it is. Yes?
Lane, how do the fur buyers tell you after the fur tables are over how much fur they actually bought? So
Yes,
we have an idea of
everything is tracked. If you haven't been to the fur table, come into the fur table, catch my attention, I'll walk you through the process. The trappers come in, they have their fur in the bags, they know exactly what they have. So Conservation has staff there registering everybody, so they have a number and they have a sheet, or actually it's a five sheets of carbon, 5-part carbon paper, and they fill out the numbers. They don't even take it out of the bag. They take the numbers, they take it to the fur buyers. They have to wait their turn. When it's their number that's called up, they run through. They give their 5 copies to each of the guys down the line, and we usually try to have both auction houses and at least 3 private buyers there. So there is some advances, and the trappers will get the value of the fur minus commission and the advance back to them later on after the sale. So they have to wait for that, or they can sell it privately. So they run through, and each of the buyers or the auction houses will list the value that they think that fur is worth as an offer. They will give that sheet. You know, I've taken my fur through just to see the prices. Take that sheet, they tuck it in their pocket, they run through all 5 people, and then they go back to the table and they'll discuss it with their significant others or their family, because a lot of the kids have fur in there too, and they trying to figure out what they're going to get and that. And then you'll see that they come to an agreement, they'll pick their fur up and they'll go straight back to that person. He takes his sheet, counts out the money, and the transfer is done. So that's the part about running the fur table. They get a competitive price for their fur. If the fur table wasn't in place, there is 1 fur buyer in the north. 1. Plus all the northern stores. But I think everybody here, without being a diplomat, has heard how the northern stores have dealt with First Nations people in the far north, especially through the groceries. I can guarantee you that the fur is complete opposite. When Martin were selling for $50, $60 a piece, the northern stores in Brochet, Lac Brochet, and Tuduli were getting or selling or buying Martin for $15 to $20 a Martin, because the guys need the cash to buy supplies, and there's only 1 person up there. So unless they want to hop on a plane and fly to Winnipeg or to Thompson to the 1 buyer here, they have to accept whatever price is paid. So we have the fur table. We promote guys to send their fur to the auction houses. For myself, I started to do that years ago. I've only sold at the fur table once. I send all my fur to the auction house. I deal with North American. I buy a membership, so I get a break on the commission, and I get 1 check a year, and it usually comes about May. That's for all the fur that I catch all winter. There's only 2 or 3 sales a year that you have to hit those dates. If you miss one, it gets held to the next year. So without the fur table, it will go directly back to very few buyers paying very unfair prices. So we're going to keep the fur table going for the trappers. It's good for them, it's good for the city of Thompson, and it's good for the businesses in town. And I understand that in a few more years, they're going to need every extra dollar value. I'm not looking directly at you, Ryan, but
Well, Lane,
I know your pay stub says valet, but you aren't on the board. So, but it is going to be a significant portion of the business in Thompson. you do not want these people getting upset and starting to go right through Thompson to Winnipeg or to the Paw, or, you know, maybe Lynn Lake, if they get that mine going, maybe it'll become viable again. We want them to come here, and the Trappers Association is doing everything we can to ensure that they're happy with the way things are going, and they feel welcome to Thompson through the fur table, and that their business is appreciated. So.
Well, thank you. Everyone give Lane a round of applause for his, and Lane, I think